Hi, Rex here at RW Mods. Today we're going to look at this new, it's brand new. This is the Reds 521 Sport, the S line, the Sport line steel bearing. I have two of them in here. The ones that comes with a pipe and one's a single engine. You can see what comes in each box. These just came out and I ordered them. I have a dealer account through Reds Racing USA, and Reds Racing USA recently changed hands. Alex Morelli was distributing them for probably over a year, maybe closer to 2 years. For some reason, Reds took it back over. So these were shipped from Italy, from the factory in Italy. I think somewhere down the line they might have a U.S. person taking over the distribution, but I'm not sure. These came, I think they came in like 2 or 3 days. They shipped them. Express. I don't know if it was just. I mean, over a certain dollar amount, there's free shipping, and but I had been contacting them, and they had seen my videos before and stuff, so maybe they wanted to get them here in a hurry. I didn't pay for any. I mean, it was free shipping, so over $400 was free shipping, I think, or $450 or something. So the I don't know why I got the Express, but it worked out nice. So we're gonna take a look at these. We'll look at the box of the Sport here. This is the single engine. Of course, we have the engine here. I'll move this aside for now. Foam padding. So we got instruction manual, parts diagram, stickers, and a couple foam pieces to protect things. Here's the engine. Now I saw that this, just kind of dropped, that this came out, and I assumed it was replacing the R5R, which I am correct about, and I thought it would be just a different like a different version of the R5R. I did notice in the picture on the website that it had the new Carb, and this is the Carb that comes on the higher end, the 721 and the Scuderia and stuff. I'm not sure all the engines that come with it. I'm not sure if all of them come with it yet, but I think they eventually will. So I thought it was going to be R5R with a different Carb, and I didn't notice in the pictures, but it does come with the whole new block too. So it'd be the same block as the Scuderia, the 721 and stuff. So this does not have. It does not have the downturned exhaust port like in the previous Reds. So the Pico built Reds for years. And they've had this Pico engines, and the Reds have had this downturned exhaust. It does take a special exhaust manifold. I think in a pinch you can make the other one work and seal, and it does take a little different seal, a little bit different rubber gasket, so make sure you don't buy one for a Nova Rossi or most of the common ones. OS, I think, and Nova Rossi are the same, so it does take a specific Pico and Reds exhaust manifold gasket. So it's a really nice looking engine. I could tell that the head looks to me more like the 721. Actually, on the outside, everything looks pretty close to the 721. So let's take apart. Let's look into this other box and see what comes in the other box. So this one, where does it say that? So this is the combo 521 Sport 2143 pipe with it's a medium manifold, medium bend manifold. So that's kind of a nice separated box here. Got the header. A 2143 pipe, nice polished pipe. I did notice on the site they do have a hard coat pipe available too. Not in the combo, I don't believe, but they do have a hard coat pipe. I'm not sure which numbers it is and stuff, but that's pretty nice. I like the chrome one, or the polished aluminum. They look really nice, but they do get tarnished pretty fast. And they've had for a few years too a one-piece header and pipe, so that you don't have a gasket there that can leak. Not sure if there's anything under here. So we do have a couple things in here. So this comes with the completion for the pipe, the springs you need to wrap around the engine, the gasket for between the header and manifold and pipe. So everything you need there. The engine, and just like the other box, we got instruction manual, stickers, and a parts diagram. I have not had this one out of the box yet, so make sure everything looks the same as the other one. So it's quite a few changes. I mean, nothing on this externally is actually the same as the R5R. Maybe the backplate, but the head is different. The block is different. The carb is different. I thought only on that Scuderia or the SV, the Super Veloce, that they had this special ring that holds on the carb boot, and it had this. The carb pole has the set screw on either side. So what that's for is, like, sometimes you want the ball over on this side, and then the set screw is down here and you can't get at it because of the chassis, it's in the car, and so you can run the set screw on either side. Or if you got a 1 hour main or 45-minute main, you can put another set screw in to make sure things don't come loose. But so that's kind of neat. But nice carb. I gotta get my I gotta start tuning on one of these. I want to learn that carb tuning and stuff. But all in all, really nice looking stuff here. This is a sport model, so it's not going to come with a DLC crank like the Scuderia and the SV and such. But this engine sells for $269.99, and with the combo with the pipe and the big box there, it was $339.99. So that's a pretty good price on that combo, because pipes tend to be close to $100 nowadays, $80 to $100 for a decent pipe. So that's a pretty good price. They are through Reds Racing USA. They are offering a break-in service. It's an oil bath break-in for $40. You can just add that if you go on their site and add it. And if you get one through me, we can also add it. Also, it's $40 for the oil bath break-in. And so that's convenient. You can get that right done. It does say to allow 2 to 3 days for the engine to be broken in for you. This is a 16.25 stroke 16.8, or excuse me, 16.25 bore with a 16.81 stroke, which is the same as the 721, same bore and stroke. I believe it's a good bore and stroke. It's really similar to the standard long stroke, which would be a 16.28 bore. So it's very, very minimal and different than like a standard long stroke, like a P5, most the XCB OS and such. So the standard long stroke. Like I said, let's see. Well, let's look and see what's inside this thing. Okay, we have everything apart here. Like I said, the block is different. Looks exactly like the 721, the Scuderia SV, and some others. We got a steel bearing in there. Double sealed front bearing. Really nice looking block. I do like that it does have a normal straight exhaust on it. Crankshaft. This does look similar to the R5R. I did notice there's a little... The R5R used to have a cut on this other side here, kind of similar to that one on this side. This one doesn't have it. Really, not really much of a difference there. I do know that these cranks are super hard. Probably some of the hardest heat treatment and materials on most engines. You can't go too hard, because you go super hard on something, it'll be brittle. So you need a balance or a case hardness, so it's it's somewhat not too hard interior, but the external has a case hardened. Silicone filled. Really nice crank. When I go to mill on crank openings, this stuff is super hard. You gotta be careful. Nice sharp carbide tooling for that. This is a 5-port. We got 5 intake ports. Nice big one-piece exhaust port. And I was pleasantly surprised when I took this thing apart that it had the new style sleeve. Now it's not a 7-port like the 721, but it's a new design. So this is the old design Pico, when Pico made the sleeves. I'm not sure who's making them. Reds has said that, like on the 721 and the Scuderia and stuff, that they're doing more in-house than they did before. They used to, the R5R was basically a Pico made engine, and they're doing more in-house. I haven't been to Italy. I don't know who's making what and everything, but that's what they told me, that it's less Pico than it used to be. So this is the old Pico type sleeve. Had a bypass port in it. One thing I didn't really like about these is the smaller diameter. They're it's only 10 thousandths difference, but you can tell the wall is thinner. I believe the bores are the same. Yeah, so the bores are the same. So the same bore and stroke as the old R5R, but I'm not even sure if this is a R5R sleeve. But this is an older Pico sleeve. And I do like it for resizing sleeves. It's I just get a better pinch with this normal size. This is the same size sleeve as most Novarossis and OS and such. A few of them have changed their sleeve sizes here and there, but so that was one plus. I really like that on the 721 and stuff. So nice, really nice cutting. Just really nice machining on this. I really like the looks of this. It does, it does leave a little bit of room for improvement with some modifying there and rounding the edges, but for the most part, this thing will run really good stock. I'm not sure if there's a change in the piston and rod on these, but 16.25 bore. A good material on these rods and pistons. It really, you can get them hot. They don't lose their pinch. The rods are strong. One thing about the Reds and Pico is they tend to have their pinch was down, not very up, not right up at the corner, but it's down, kind of by these grooves. So that's something just a little bit different they do. I don't think it's necessarily worse or better, or it seems to work just fine. So head button, this is another change from the R5R. The R5R used to use this big finned head button, which is kind of, when they kind of came out, it was kind of neat. Has some extra cooling from the head button. You can make the head shorter. I'm not sure. I mean, anytime a company comes out with something different, it's kind of cool when it first comes out, and it's, people buy things because they're new and different and stuff. But I think maybe the manufacturing was a little bit more on that or whatever. So they went to this one, and this head button looks identical to the 721. This, you know, those newer style engines. The plug does look a little different. It's a C3, and even the design of it looks a little bit different. So maybe they got something going on different with plugs. Plugs, if you haven't heard, there's quite a price increase on plugs. The platinum and some of the metals they use for the coils and such are have really skyrocketed in price. Even just steel, here where I work and stuff, they've seen up to a 300% increase in steel. Aluminum not quite as much, but steel has seen a 300% increase. And that's another thing too. Like the price on this engine is $269.99. I want to say the Red's R5R was $259.99. So this engine being kind of all new and only $10 more, really impressive, because I've seen Argus engines, OS engines, all have seen a price increase due to material costs. So it's good to see that they've only slightly increased it, but really made quite a bit better engine. So, and this head, I'm not sure if it's identical, but it does look similar to like the 721. Lower CG head. Obviously, when you're not using this big head button, the whole design of it's different. So I believe this. I'd have to look on my older video of the 721 or the SV and stuff, but it does look slightly different, I think. But I don't know, it could be the same head. But regardless, pretty low CG. This sits down in there pretty good. Nice looking head. Feels pretty light. Back plate. This is pretty typical Red's back plate. It feels like it's a plated aluminum, not a raw aluminum, almost like a chrome plated aluminum. Should wear pretty good here. Give it a nice slippery surface there. Sometimes, you know, raw aluminum can rub a little bit more. But logo down in there. Always kind of had good looking backplates with a little extra machining to kind of accent things. The carb, this is all new. So it's an aluminum carburetor. The old one was plastic and steel, like so. This was steel. I don't know if I got one lying around here. I don't think I do, but the old style Pico style carb was around for years and years, kind of plastic, and then what went in the block was steel. This is aluminum carburetor with the plastic insert here to insulate the carb from the heat from the block. Does help from boiling your fuel, especially if it sits. Like you always find a nitro engine, if you start it up, get it up to temp, and then shut it off for 5 minutes, it kind of heat soaks the carb. That should help that, but I always hate that when they you go out there for your warm up for the main or whatever, and then they have you shut them off for some reason, and then because they do tend to start a little hard after they've been sitting and kind of heat soaked and stuff. But so this carb has a short low speed needle. You can see it maybe about half throttle. It pulls out of the orifice on the other side. I'm really interested in getting some tune on this carburetor to see how it does tune. It looks good. It does look really good, and I think it's quite an improvement. Looks like like a hard coated slide, down an aluminum slide in there. The band on here is nice to keep that carb boot on there. Like I talked about, the double set screw carb pull, so that's all really good stuff there. So I think I'm seeing quite a few major improvements on this engine versus the R5R. There was one thing too. The R5R through a couple different generations had the high-speed needle out the side here. I heard JQ on he's talked about it before, and that carb didn't tune because of the high-speed needle being on the side. I don't really think, if it didn't work well, I don't understand, because you're just basically moving that the fuel's just coming in from the side versus the top. I don't really see how that could make a difference. And that was another one of those things that, you know, it's different than everybody else. So I mean, people kind of were attracted to that to start with, and they held on to it on the R5R for just until this model. So the 4.0 or was it 5.0 was the latest R5R. I did recently modify, just last week I modified a R5R, and it did have this style head, and it had maybe the carb. It had a few changes that I didn't realize that they made on the latest R5R, and I didn't have they didn't send it in the box, so I don't really know what generation it was called, but I assumed it was the newest one. But the high-speed needle coming out the side here, it for me, I never used that carb, but for me, I would rather tune the high-speed needle from, you know, usually the window of the 8-scale buggy or truggy. I think having to lift the body like you do for the low-speed needle was a little more of a pain, because usually if you're going to do a last-minute adjustment, it's going to be the high speed. So it's a little harder to reach in the side and get it versus the top. You can usually see a little bit better, lighting's better and stuff. So I think it's, you know, it's good they got rid of that carb just for convenience for me for tuning and stuff during racing. So how do these numbers compare to the R5R? And so here we got the Reds 521 Sport. Like I said, 16.25 bore, 16.81 stroke. I believe that's the same as the R5R. So here we got a blowdown of 45, induction open of 138, induction close of 52 with a total of 191. And on a previous R5R, I was getting 43 for a blowdown, so we got a little bit higher exhaust port. This should just a little bit more top end, still be plenty to pull a truggy. I believe this would be a really good engine for a truggy, and a buggy. A buggy you might need to tune the clutch and use maybe more of a smoother pipe off the bottom or something. But I think it's a good all-around engine. I believe in both truggy and buggy, just based on the numbers. Still going to have really good top end. It's going to run really good stock. Plenty to for anybody to win a main. Now, if you know much about the numbers and followed what I've talked about with the numbers, is usually the induction open, like on your OS and some of the higher end ones, you're in the 150s. Induction close, you're probably up maybe close to 60. So the crank timing on this one, just like the R5R, I think I had like 137 and 53 or something on my last R5R that I had done the numbers on. So the crank timing appears to be very similar to what the R5R was. So this thing's going to run very similar to the R5R. It's going to tune different because it's got a different carburetor, but maybe just a tad bit more top end. So I think those are all pluses, and it's not a bad thing that it's it's got a little less crank timing than some high-end engines, or even I think the 721 had 143 or something in 57 or something, so a little less crank timing than the 721. But I also think that this is a sport engine. See, if Reds comes out and has like maxed out crank timing and this thing is just a killer, people are going to buy this versus the more expensive engine too. So you gotta, being it's a sport engine, I think there's really nothing wrong with these numbers. It's going to run really good. We're not talking a drastic difference in power, but to get peak power, it does help to go up in these numbers. And I, as a modifier too, I also like that they leave a little room for playing around. Sometimes those numbers are kind of maxed out and I can't really move it one way or the other and stuff. So I really, I would rather modify an engine like this than one that's already kind of maxed out. Like most OS, I I don't want to increase crank timing it much, so I'm kind of stuck there, and I can't go either induction open or close and stuff. So I think it's a good thing that they go a little less on this. It's really not it's not going to hurt performance stock. If you want to get it modified, you can see an improvement and stuff. So I think that that way, it's a pretty good numbers. Well, I think that's about it on this. Totally blown away with all the improvements to this versus, the previous R5R. So I think this thing's going to be a good seller for him. Yes, it doesn't have the coated crank, but it's also, I would say, at $270, it's close to being a budget engine. There's some cheaper, but not much cheaper. I think in this category you have like the OS XZB, the version 2 or whatever, the uncoated crank. That thing, people talk about it all the time on some of the Facebook pages, and the crank is like half as soft as this. So I think wear-wise, you're going to see quite a bit better life out of this engine than like that XZB, the uncoated one, the non-speed. And that engine's like $330 or something like that too. So I can't believe they sell any of those over $300. But so this engine, like I said, this crank is super hard. I have trouble milling on them and stuff, so that's a good thing. The rods are strong. I like everything about this. I'm actually, I don't run many engines that I do reviews on, but I'm gonna run one of these. I haven't ran my 8 scale for a year and a half or so we'll get that out, do some laps and stuff. So I'm interested to tune this carburetor and see how it all works and stuff. So one thing I didn't talk about is the piston to head clearance. So the piston to head clearance on this was, I think I was getting about 20 thousandths. That's 20 thousandths is a half millimeter. I like to see a little bit more. I would say this is more the shimmed for like a 25%. That's what they run in Italy or in Europe, I guess. So they run a lot of 25%. I personally, head shimming seems to be on engines. They seem to be more compression, less head shims, less piston to head clearance than they were 5 years ago. So, and that's in all different brands. So I think head shimming is kind of getting to be a personal preference. And I think it's something that every racer should learn how to measure and play around with. Try adding a 4/1000th shim. That would be a 0.1 millimeter shim. And see if you like it. See if it tunes better. I think you're going to find it less erratic, less high idles when it comes into the pits or at the end of the straightaway and stuff with 30%. If you were to run 20%, maybe 25%, I think it might be fine. I think you could probably add a shim with 25%, it would still run fine. I personally, with the higher compression, it's going to feel a little bit snappier on the box. It's going to be just more of an instant throttle. But that's on the track, it's not going to translate. Something that sounds really rips on the box doesn't necessarily translate to ripping on the track. So with this carb and everything, so that's one thing I think on any engine, OS, Reds, the Picos, any engine manufacturer, they're kind of playing around with head shimming a little bit, and I think it's something you should learn and play around with and see, in your track, your elevation, your fuel and stuff. That's kind of a tuning option I think everyone should really look into and play with. So that's it on this Reds 521 Sport. Thanks for watching.